Welcome to the Krista Escamilla Show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Krista Escamilla Show. Thank you so much for being here to listen, learn, and grow, three of my favorite things, and hopefully yours. We appreciate your time because we know it's precious, so thanks for choosing us today. I want to also thank our sponsors before we introduce our amazing guest. So a big thank you to Tapestry Hotel Midland, Rig ID Workwear, Thin FR, JoinCapClub.com, Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial, and also Midland Cap Company. We appreciate local businesses for supporting us, and as we like to say, let's just all support local. I can't wait to introduce and hear her story. Joining us today is Dr. Stephanie Howard, and she is the superintendent of MISD, but favorite titles, mom and wife as well. So thank you for being here, Stephanie. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Krista. I'm glad to be here.
It's going to be fun. I've got to interview you a couple of times in different settings, but never really got to hear your complete story. So I cannot wait to talk all things life, kids, education, all the things. So thank you again.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Let's start off with how you got to West Texas, because everyone's story is different, right? No two are the same. So how did you get here?
So grew up somewhat in West Texas. I still believe it's West Texas, Robert Lee near San Angelo.
Yes.
So a little bitty community, graduated with 22. And, went off to college and did not start out in education, started out business marketing. But then when I shifted into education, married my husband. He was with the, wanting to be a firefighter. And that was at the time that we moved to Big Spring and he started with Big Spring Fire Department. So that was our first real, move out to this part, to far West Texas, I would kind of call it. And I did my student teaching there in Big Spring, went to Stanton, taught and coached there, and then came to Midland, I guess 24 years ago. This is year 30 for me in education. So came to Midland, spent 14 years here in Midland, went to Odessa. My husband said, we're going to be in El Paso if we keep moving west at this rate. Then we took a little jaunt up to a little northwest to Plains and then back to Odessa in West Texas, and then been back in Midland a year and a half.
I can't believe it's been a year and a half already.
Yes.
And I want to backtrack just a tiny bit. Education. What was it that made you? Because you could have been actually doing what I'm doing here today. If you're a business marketing major and communications, what made you switch to education?
I'll start with why I didn't start out that way. Okay. So my dad taught and coached for 36 years, was an athletic director. And
cool.
Mom worked at the school. She drove a bus, she worked in the cafeteria, was a custodian, did some substitute teaching. And so when you grow up in a small town, there are very few jobs in small towns. So everyone assumed and thought, including my parents, that I would go be a teacher. And when you graduate and you're 17, you have kids around that age. They don't always want to listen to their parents. And
no, I don't understand why, but no, they don't.
And so I was determined to not do what they thought I should do. And so I wanted to be an interior decorator. They told me no one did that. And I said, well, not in Robert Lee, but there are interior decorators around the world. And so I went to Charlton, played golf there for a year, and
which is such a cool fun fact. I was going to ask you a fun fact later but let's start off with that. I did not know that you golfed. I love that.
Yeah. So that I had the opportunity. I had to decide between softball and golf. Had an opportunity to play softball at St. Mary's. But then ended up playing golf at Charlton, and so
which is a good thing because that's where you met your husband.
That's correct. He's from Stephenville, so everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
But at 17, I was determined to do something different. So since they told me I couldn't do interior design, I thought business marketing, and absolutely loved that. And so my sophomore year in college, I had an English professor that I really liked and thought, teachers can always find jobs.
Yeah.
And that was true back then. It's really true now. We're always looking for great teachers. And so that's when I switched over to education.
Great. And what a background you had already and some role models in your life. I like what you said about you think you're going down one path and then the other, because we have a lot of young people that listen to the podcast, and I always like to say it's important to find out what you don't want to do as much as it is what you do want to do.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there's so much pressure sometimes to when you go to college, like pick that degree right off the bat. What advice would you give to someone, since, because I was the same way, I switched degrees, midway, and of what I ended up doing. What would you say advice-wise to someone that's maybe, contemplating that right now? They're about to go into college and they're going to say, okay, what do you want to study?
Right. So I think the thing is, think about what you love and what you enjoy.
Yeah.
Because, we tell our girls all the time, if you pick a career or a profession you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's what I say. I'm
And so,
with you. I love that.
But if you go try to find your profession based on how much money you think it's going to pay or what other people think you should do, it's going to be work every day.
Right.
And so I think finding, that, and I think if I'd have started out in education, I don't know if it would have ended up the same way. I did stay with that communications minor and kind of kept that marketing piece and thinking about that and thinking about the work that we do right now. But I think the big thing is, if you think you want to do something, find someone who does that and shadow them, see what they really do. I remember in high school, we had a science teacher, I don't remember which science class it was, but she had us do a research on a profession. Pick a profession. Well, I thought I wanted to be a phlebotomist. I don't know that I even knew what a phlebotomist did.
Maybe you saw a TV show and there was a phlebotomist, right?
It sounded neat.
Right.
And as I researched what they did, I said, well, that sounds terrible. I don't like blood. So
not the path for me.
Not the path for me,
Nope.
right? And so I think sometimes we just hear, those titles, here in the Permian Basin, an engineer, but a lot of people don't even know what an engineer does. And so I think finding that person you can look up to, that's one of the things we're doing in MISD right now is working to create apprenticeships and opportunities to bring students into industry so they can really figure out what that profession does and make some decisions. I always say, once you get in, and you're a college mom too, a mom of college students, once you get 2 or 3 years in, we hope they have a good plan, because otherwise it's going to start costing money when they change.
Right.
But take those opportunities, and I have never, it doesn't matter what profession we're talking about, people want to help and they're willing to say, yeah, come spend the day with me.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's nothing better than getting in there and seeing what you want to do. Al and I were just talking about that on our morning walk today, that you have those jobs in the beginning, like when you're young, to figure out what you do want to do and what you don't want to do. And I think that you should then reassess that in college too, and pick a couple internships and jobs just to see what it's like in that industry, because you don't know. And I go, well, I'm glad nothing against pizza delivery, but I'm glad I'm not delivering pizza still, right? Because I realized, okay, I do want to go further my education. When I was 16 and I was out there delivering pizza.
And gas is expensive.
So I don't even know if I'd be making money right now doing that. But I think that's important to figure out what you do and don't want to do. I love that advice. Let's talk a little bit about education, because education is a space that we all are affected by. It's something we all, as a parent, right? We want our kids to get the best education, and we want to see them do the best. We always want what's better for our kids than what we had for ourselves, or the different reasons why we choose. Why should someone choose MISD as their place of education for their kids?
Absolutely. So I don't know if you've heard me speak before, but one of the things I say, I'm all for choice. I just want to be the best choice in Midland.
Gotcha.
And have friends that have kids in all different kinds of schools, and co-workers I've worked with over the years that are in different schools. At the end of the day, we're all in it for the same reason. It's all about our students. But why Midland ISD? When I think about what all we offer, we have 39 schools. We'll have 40 in another year. We'll open our 40th campus August of 2025.
That's the new elementary
The new
school?
elementary.
Okay.
But when I think about all the choices that we have within the district, so elementary, one of the things I talk to our team about all the time, I don't care where a family lives, every school should be great.
Yes.
And so that's something that we're working really hard on. Parents shouldn't even have to think about where do I send my kids to school. That neighborhood school is going to be a great choice. And if you have kiddos that are getting ready to start school, or you've moved into the community, please stop by. Let us show you around. I'm in our schools all the time, and great things happen in every single one of them. When we think about our secondary schools, the opportunities that we're able to provide, with our campuses, our junior highs and middle schools in another 4 years with the grade reconfiguration. When you think of, 1,000 to 1,200 students on those campuses, our high schools, the 2 comprehensive high schools that, are closer to 3,000 with 3 grade levels, they'll be around 3,800 when we open up those 9-12 schools.
Wow.
We are able to offer a lot of courses, a lot of opportunities, co and extracurriculars that many times you wouldn't have the opportunity. I grew up and graduated with 22. We didn't have the opportunity to take some of the courses that our students have. We didn't have choir and orchestra and advanced placement coursework and dual credit back then. But we pretty much offer everything. And so there's a great opportunity for students who, regardless of what they're interested in, we offer that.
Right. Now, I'm sure through the years you've been in good schools, you've been in bad schools, you've been everything from teacher, right, to principal to now superintendent, which gives you a unique aspect of looking at schools. In your opinion, what makes a good school? When you walk in now from the superintendent level, when you walk in, what do you go, this is a great school, and we need to emulate that, or we need to maybe incorporate some of these items into a different school.
Right. So first of all, if you walk into a school or a classroom, you feel it right away. You either have a feeling of, this is a great school. This is a place I would want to come to school, would want to send my kids to school, place I would want to work. Or you walk in and maybe you don't feel that. Doesn't seem like people are happy to be there themselves.
That's a good one, yes.
And so you can, and you honestly can feel that in about 30 seconds or less.
I agree.
Classroom's the same thing. You walk in a classroom and think, man, I wish I were a student in this classroom. Or you may not have that feeling, why is that teacher teaching? They don't seem to like children.
Right.
But I've been in multiple schools. I actually shared with our leadership team last week. Both of my girls have gone to school in 4 different school districts.
Wow.
That's not typical.
No,
I went from first grade until I graduated in Robert Lee, so I moved one time to a new school district.
So they have a unique experience, right?
And what I share with parents too, there is no perfect school.
Yeah.
And we've been in many of them.
Yes.
We've been in schools where we love the school, but there's no perfect teacher either. And what I always try to say to both my own children, to students when I was their principal, or to parents, but just to parents in general, if we're engaged as parents, our students are going to have a good experience. Our children are going to have a good experience. And the other thing I always, and I did this as a principal, you're not going to like every single teacher you have. We can think back, right?
It's
you
true.
can think back, and it may not
going to name names,
right,
but yes,
no
we
names.
can all think back.
They may have been a great teacher, but just personality-wise, that wasn't your style. But that's
true.
life.
Yeah.
And that's part of getting ready for college. It's part of getting ready for work. You're going to work with people or work for people that may not be your favorite, but it's part of life. And so learning how to make the best of situations. But the other thing, just from that feel, the other thing I think is really important is how are students performing? And are they being held to high standards? Are the expectations high? All children are different. And the Blueberry Story, if you haven't ever read the Blueberry Story, you would probably like that.
Tell me the Blueberry Story. What is that?
It's a business owner. He's from the business industry and had the impression that, well, why can't schools just be like a business? We take a product, we make sure it's good, and we produce a good product every single time. And so he was speaking to a group of teachers one time when he made that comment, and he said, I almost got run out of the room. And so one of the teachers let him know real quick that our students are not blueberries. He had an ice cream company. And so the teacher said, what if a blueberry comes across and you're getting ready to make ice cream and it's not ripe, it's not ready, or it's too ripe? He said, we throw it out.
Yeah.
She said, sir, we can't throw out any of our students. We educate every single one of them that shows up. Some of them are ripe and ready, and they're ready to go. Some are still, getting ready to learn or getting ready to be at that grade level, if you will. And so, when we think about our profession and that, I think when our parents are engaged, you have 4 children, I have 2, they're different.
All different.
All different. We have 29,000.
Wow.
They're all different.
Think of that. Let that number sink in for
So
a
our
minute.
teachers have to be flexible.
29,000.
They have to be adaptable.
Yes.
And we just ask that parents partner with us on that, because sometimes a parent has figured out what works with their own kid before we can figure that out.
So don't just drop and go. Be an active participant in their educational life. I love that. I want to applaud one of your campuses. I've been on different campuses throughout the years, in either interviewing teachers or students or principals. And recently I was an MC, or I got to speak. I wasn't even emceeing, excuse me, I misspoke. I was speaking to a group of your students at the YWLA. And I have to tell you, within, like you said, the first 30 seconds, you could feel the positive energy walking onto that campus.
Yes.
And I saw it in the students' eyes, and I saw it in the teachers' eyes, and I loved that. Granted, it was a Friday. It was a Friday, and we were doing a fun event where I can't remember what they call it. They do it at the end of every month. They have some special day where they bring in a speaker, and they do a lot of fun competitions. But with that said, the energy was amazing, and so
Were they wearing their fabulous uniforms?
they were wearing. Gosh, they looked amazing. They were so adorable. Each and every one of them. They probably are like, really, you just called me adorable? But they were such great, well-mannered students, and so happy to have someone on campus and pour into them. And I just felt the love. I mean, literally, they were throwing me Taylor Swift love signs from the audience, and I couldn't have felt more just proud of our school district when I walked in there and saw that. So hats off to everyone and all teachers in all settings, because I know they want what's best for their students.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk more leadership and students in just a minute. But first, we do a quote of the day here. And so what we'll do is you pick out a quote, and you will tell me what it means to you, Stephanie.
Okay. Oh,
Which
smart.
card? You got the smart card. Of course, an educator would get the smart card. I love it's so funny how it always works out perfect for our guest. I love that. And I don't pre-plan these.
So this says, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, and to love. Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, I love that. What does that quote mean to you?
So, I think, with social media today, it's so easy to get bogged down in the negative. And if we're not careful, before we know it, everything we've scrolled through has been a negative connotation, which is a terrible way to start the day.
Absolutely.
And so, when we think about the Habitudes, I don't know if you've ever read Habitudes, Family of Dealerships uses that book with their employees.
I'm going to write it down.
But when we think more about what we get to do versus what we have to do.
Yes.
Being thankful that we woke up in the morning, being thankful that we have the opportunity to make a difference each day. So,
yes,
when I think about that, the privilege to be alive, to think and to enjoy and to love, I think we have to look for those small wins and enjoy each day as it comes.
Couldn't agree more. And what advice do you, because I live by that. I love that. I follow me on Instagram. I put a daily quote out every morning because of that, because I feel like we need to put more positivity out there so that when kids are waking up in the morning, they're scrolling something positive and something that's going to encourage them. What do you say to the young student that wakes up in the morning and goes, I have to go to school today?
Right. So, our goal is to make it a place where they want to come to school. Now, depending on their age, they're going to say that they don't want to come to school regardless, because it's just the age where that's what you're supposed to say, right? But, when we think about that culture we create on our campuses, when we think about that teacher that instead of saying, where were you yesterday, I'm so glad you're here today.
Yes.
And because we have students that, we don't always even know what all they go through, and being there today is important. So, I would say, give us the opportunity, show up in a good mood. And we talked to our bus drivers about that too. I spoke to maintenance custodial recently this summer, and sometimes they're the first ones that see our students. Whether they're picking them up on the bus or it's a custodian that sees them in the hallway, one of the first students to arrive in the morning. So I don't know what I would say to the student as much as what I say to our employees is, let's always make sure that we start off positive and appreciate our students being here and recognizing some of them had a harder time getting here than others did.
And it's amazing what a good morning can do for someone, or a smile,
right?
Because that might be the first smile they've seen since the weekend, right? If it was, say, it's a Monday morning, right? And on Friday, we don't know. Everyone's home life is different. That could be the first positive interaction that they've had all weekend.
What our leadership summit last week, we'll have to invite you.
Yes, I would love to go.
Year.
I would love to.
So we had all of our leaders, district and campus leaders, administrative assistants, and we were at Bush Convention Center last week for a 3-day conference. And Damon West opened up our keynote, the Coffee Bean.
Okay, yes.
If you've ever heard of him. But he talked about, when you put an egg in water, it gets hard. If you put a carrot in water, it gets soft. But if you put a coffee bean in water, it changes the water. And so he talked about one of the ways to be a bean is to smile.
I love that.
Just smile at someone.
It's free too.
You're right. And you never know what kind of day they're having, and that one smile may make a difference for them.
Absolutely. Let's talk about leadership. What would you say is your leadership, the way that you lead? If you had to describe it to somebody that has maybe they're just walking on a campus for the first time as a teacher this year, and they're like, well, what kind of leader am I going to have?
Right.
I know it's hard.
I
know that's a hard question.
Krista. You might need to talk to some of our team. I think they would say I'm pretty intense. I'm an intense leader. I always want things to be excellent, and when we get to what we think excellent is, I'm going to push a little farther. I'm driven that way. My dad used to teach us that if you're going to do something, do it well. If you're not going to do it well, don't do it at all.
Why are you wasting your time?
Why are you wasting your time? If you don't have time to do something in the first place, you certainly don't have time to do it a second time. So get it right the first time. Dad expected a lot of us, and so because of that, I think that I lead that way. At the same time, I want to make sure that all of our team members have what they need.
Yes.
We have to give them what they need, and that means the tools, the resources, the equipment, the support. And then once we give them what we need, we get out of their way and let them do it.
Nice.
So I think they would say
not
that.
micromanage. You would not say micromanagement.
No,
I love that.
I always
love
tell
that.
my team, unless I say I want you to do X, Y, and Z, I just want you to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish,
Right.
and however you get there is your business. But I don't know. You might should ask some other people. I don't know if we'd want to repeat that though.
No, I love that because, high road leadership is John C. Maxwell,
Yes.
which I know that y'all have implemented iLead,
Yes.
which is amazing. And we can talk about that in a second. But I know in high road leadership, he talks about what's it like to be on the other side of me.
Right.
And I had never thought of that as a leader until he said that to really go, well, gosh, what are they seeing, from me? Because we just do what we do, right? We hope to be intentional
Yes.
about what we do. And we know that we have certain things that we like done, but I never thought about it before. Like, what is it like to be on the other side of me? So I just thought that's an interesting thing, like what type of leader, am I? And so I think that's a good question is for you is what makes a good leader? Like when you're looking for your principals in the school district, how do you decide, yes, this one's ready to move on to the role you've been in.
Right.
What am I looking for there?
Yeah, so what we're looking for in a leader, whether that be a campus principal or a leader of a department or a division, someone who's personable, high expectations, but able to get those results in a way that people want to be part of it.
Yes.
So
they're all
magnetic personality, that all in, able to build a team and to get that team moving in the same direction. So, it's not all fun and games all the time. You can't just rah-rah all the time, right? But you have to
which I say, why not? But yeah, you're right.
You have to lead in a way that people can get behind you and do the hard work at the same time. Because education is hard. Yeah. It is hard work, and there's easier work out there. I tell our team that. I said, now, when there's easier work out there, I don't want you to go find it.
Right.
But know that the profession you're in is so rewarding, so important, and not everyone can do it.
That is so true, and not everyone can. I mean, when I see a good teacher and someone, you can just tell they love what they do.
Right.
It's like it almost pours out of them,
Exactly.
right? And I love that, and I think that is key. And you've had some great leaders come through, through MISD, and when you see them, you recognize them, and you go, that's a good leader.
Yeah.
So
well, and Krista, our theme this year is Made in MISD.
Okay.
And so when we think about that, great students are made in MISD, leaders are made in MISD, great opportunities, traditions, experiences, And so at Convocation next week, we're going to be really focusing on that theme and lifting up alumni that have been made in MISD and have gone on to do some really great things, continue to give back to the school district, the community, and that impact that they make. So thinking about that, that's just that opportunity, again, going back to that quote, that opportunity to wake up in the morning and make a difference.
Gosh, and that is such a good quote. I love that. I get to. Let's talk a little bit about schools. They've changed so much since you and I went to school, right? Technology. And you love it or you hate it.
Right.
But you have to embrace it either way, and
Right.
you have to utilize it. What would you say are the biggest, I guess, the pros and cons of it? Because, there's always talk about should phones be in school or should they not, or
Right.
Or computers. When I grew up, I did not have a computer at school. I used to go to the computer lab, write my paper in college, and or my typewriter, my little brother typewriter, right, which I could only backspace 3 times if I made a mistake.
And if you took the paper out, you were out of luck. You could never get it lined up again, so you started over.
And that was awful, wasn't it? Oh my gosh. So when I say love it, you have to embrace it, because there are pros and cons. As an educator, what are your thoughts on that?
So technology is a tool.
Okay.
If we think back to when we went to school, we had fewer tools. Our teachers had fewer tools in the toolbox. Technology can be a great accent and complement to great instruction. When we think about blended learning, that's where technology is headed. You can't just put a student on a computer and expect great things to happen. You can't not ever use a computer. But where is that blend of technology, direct instruction, and great teachers do that really well. I'll also say, and this dates back to when I was a principal, when technology was, starting to advance, and, you could walk into a classroom that had a lot of technology, but not great instruction, not, high levels of engagement with students. Right. Or you could walk into a classroom that was more traditional, probably how we went to school.
Right.
Excellent engagement, excellent instruction. So it is absolutely just another tool. We are having to learn some different ways to work with technology. The state recently has changed their grading. They're using AI to grade writing assignments and writing essays on the reading language arts test. That's very different for us. We don't use that as much to grade our, students' papers. And so we're going to have to start to incorporate that and teach students what AI is going to be looking for. Otherwise, they write a paper, and if they're not picking up on keywords or phrases or sentences with that prompt, it may not score them well.
I never even thought about AI in the schools, because, that was a big thing when we were growing up. It was like, don't copy someone's paper. Well, that back then, that meant we were looking over someone's paper, or we were having, I don't know, smart older brother or sister, helping us with it at home. And then we came, how do you know if someone is using AI in the classroom? I never thought about it.
So we're
just brought
actually in
that
the
up.
process of creating grading guidelines around that. So ChatGPT, AI. I've seen some, a lot of our conferences right now, we'll go to sessions about that, how people have figured it out, what they're doing with it. When you think about AI and the different opportunities that it opens up, there's some great ways to use it instructionally.
Right.
If you're working on writing and you're trying to teach students to be better writers, is it possible to generate some AI, writing us, samples, and then take it and make it your own voice? That helps students learn how to write in their own voice.
Gotcha.
I do not use ChatGPT. I'm an English teacher. I'm a communications person. I write it most everything. Or
you're like, I want it to be
communication
my
helps.
words.
Right.
Right.
And I want to say it a certain way. And even if my team uses a word, I'm like, I have never said that word.
Right.
Everyone knows I don't use that word.
Right.
It's just not a word I use. And they think, she didn't write this.
Right.
And so I think there's some opportunity for students, to do some revising and editing.
Right.
So maybe you take that sample and you turn it into your voice. I think there's some ways we can use it, but we're definitely in uncharted territory right now, having to think about that. years ago, so a good 12, 14 years ago, we started purchasing technology tools that we could run writing samples through, and it would tell us if it appeared to be plagiarized. So our English, department, when I was principal at Lee High School, we started using that back then.
Interesting.
And we warned the students up front, we have this new software, and it will tell us if you're plagiarizing, and then of course we have to dig into it and see if that's really true.
Right.
But we still use that kind of software.
Interesting. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing students today?
I think the biggest challenge facing students is social media. And I say that because you think back when we grew up, if you weren't getting along with a friend or a classmate, they kind of had to say it to you or pass a note, during class. But it wasn't 24/7 in your face.
Yes.
And now, if someone's being ugly to another student, they look at that and have to see it all the time.
Right.
I've
Or like what we used to say, Al and I would say, when at the end of the day, when we got to go home, you had a break from all your friends from school.
Exactly.
Right?
Or they had to call
day.
you on the old-fashioned phone and say it.
Which they probably wouldn't. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you're right.
Yeah. So, we're having raised two girls, one's still a teenager. My husband's an only child. So not only an only child, but never been around sisters or anything like that. So, when the oldest was getting into those teenage years and they go from great mood to terrible mood and you have no idea what happened, right?
What are you talking about?
I
Was he in
try to
shock?
think that, yes. And I said, we don't know what they just saw. Did they just open up something and somebody said something ugly about them? Yes. Did they, we don't know. It's a very different world that they live in right now. Yeah. And so that kind of goes back to that positivity and, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. And if you wouldn't say it to their face,
right, don't say it. And don't put it in a group chat.
Right.
And don't put it on your Snapchat or whatever. And it's a different world. And I don't know how we... How to navigate it, because again, each child is different, right? And the way that they see something, one child could see a negative comment and go, I don't care what that person says.
Exactly.
And then another kid could see it and go, that really hurt my feelings. And I can't believe that person thinks that about me. And they will then, for the next 24 hours, that's all they're thinking about. And so I do believe that, what you're saying, the kindness, of course, has got to change. But how do we do that? Like, this is all they know, right? We know there was a different life before phones and social media. How do we teach them that?
Well, so you mentioned the iLead. So we started iLead last year. We're actually going to be doing that K-12 this year, so implementing that across all of our campuses. So
that's fantastic.
Yes, when we think
Such
about
a good
that
program.
iLead curriculum and working with our kindergarten students and starting to have those conversations and thinking about character and thinking about the type of friend we want to be to one another. And back in kindergarten, that's what you talk about. By the time they're juniors in high school, if they haven't learned to be good friends, it's a little more difficult.
A little tough, right?
But I really do believe that's going to give us some opportunity to talk about those kind of things. And the other thing I'll say, being on our campuses, we have some of the kindest students I've ever been around.
That's awesome.
Right? And so we tend to hear about the ones who aren't kind because, the negative makes, that's
makes
a
the
story.
Headlines.
It's a headline.
Right.
It's if someone does something that's not so nice, that tends to stand out real loud and clear. Whereas all those kiddos, the ones you experience when you visited one of our campuses, that doesn't make the paper. That doesn't, make social media posts unless, we're working to be really intentional about posting those good stories. But, we do have kind students. We have students that if you walk up, they're going to, hold the door for you and they're going to welcome you and they're going to say hello. And that's one of the things for me when I'm walking around campuses, I'm talking to students and sometimes they look at me like, who is this lady? Why is she talking to us? Or if I go into a classroom, I'm going to sit down with the students, and I'll start talking to them and asking them what they're learning and things like that. But you're going to find that students are innately kind.
Right.
And I think we just have to bring the best out in them and teach them too, going back to that social media, how to handle it. You're going to see some things that hurt your feelings. You're going to see some things that aren't so nice. How are you going to handle that?
Yes.
Are you going to learn from it? Are you going to try to make a difference, in that setting, or what's the situation? But it's here to stay.
Yeah.
So I think we have to teach students how to deal with that and be resilient in that regard.
Well, I love that. And I love that you are taking iLead and expanding it, because just being around it a little bit as I have so far, I am just so impressed by it, and impressed by what it does on the student level, but also on the teacher level, because they have transformation tables,
Right.
which are incredible, where you can learn. I sat in on one time and I thought, this is really amazing. It makes you think, because I believe as we get older, we should always be learning and growing, but there comes a time in your life when you're busy raising kids, right?
Right.
I mean, I remember there were many, and I still have a lot to learn, let me tell you, but there was a time in my life where I wasn't focusing on my own
Right.
personal growth, right? I was
You're
just trying to get dinner on the
everybody-
table.
Yeah, and get everybody where they go. Where they need to
Exactly.
be next.
But I
Yeah.
think that these transformation tables really make you think about different things and how you can be a good leader, and a good leader in your home or your business or your school, wherever your world is. I think it's important to always be growing, and I love that. And I'm glad that people are realizing that for kids too,
Right.
because not every kid is going to learn that at home. And so if they can learn it at school, on top of all the other things they're learning,
Right.
it's just going to make their life happier in general. I'm going to stop real quick. It is question of the day. We're sitting here in Midland, Texas today with Dr. Stephanie Howard, and we are talking all things education and life, and haven't even gotten into parenting. But I just love our conversation and appreciate you spending this time with us today. Pick out a question and you just answer. It's that easy. It's question of the day.
Well, if I can get one. Here we go.
Okay.
Strong.
Strong card, yes.
How do you motivate yourself daily?
Ooh, good one.
That is a good one. Zig Ziglar talks about that,
Yes.
He says you have to do that every day. You have to motivate yourself every day.
Firmly believe it.
I think for me, thinking about, why I do the work I do in the first place. We already talked about this work is hard. There are easier jobs out there than education, than being a superintendent, than being a teacher, a principal, whatever
Right.
it is. But when we think about the difference that we get to make, the opportunity that we have every day, the other thing that motivates me is to have things to work towards.
Having the goal,
The
like a goal mindset.
Right.
Yes.
And so, if we have 2 or 3 things that we're real intentional about and working on, hey, got to get back to work on that today.
I love that.
And, so that the team I'm around every day, I have a great team to work with. And that, of course, is motivating and makes us want to be there and do that work together. But I work out every morning, so that's my chance to get my mind right if I need
Yes.
to. And I have my playlist that I play. And
Ooh, tell me a song on your playlist.
it's a diverse,
Yeah, your hype song. I think
it's
everyone has a hype
diverse
song.
playlist. And so I have some Taylor Swift on there.
Yes.
And I have some Christian on there because sometimes I need to get my mind right that way and reframe. But I think about Shake It Off.
Oh, yes.
So if I didn't have the best day the day before and I'm,
Shake
headed
it off.
in. Yeah,
Shake it off.
that's
Like
right.
just like Taylor Swift says,
Yeah.
shake it off. That's a good one.
Yeah, karma.
Yep.
So that kind of goes back to that being kind and
Yes.
that kind of thing. But
I love that you're a Swiftie.
Yes.
This makes my day.
Yeah. So I don't think you can have 2 girls and not be a Swiftie.
I couldn't agree more.
So,
you can't.
Rayleigh, our oldest, has the football Taylor Swift's version or whatever that pin is. We went to a Chiefs game last year, so she had to wear that. But, so I think every day is different. But, Dad also taught us never let them see you sweat. So if the day before wasn't quite what you wanted it to be, you get back and you go at it again.
Love it. Good attitude.
Yeah.
Good attitude to have. What is your wish list? You're talking about goals, and if you could have a wish list for public education, what would it be that you could implement that would maybe transform education into what you wish it could be?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So I'll start with our people. My first wish is that educators receive the level of respect that that they deserve. Now, that also means we have to perform and achieve it in a way that we can be respected, be professionals, outstanding teachers, those role models that people are looking for. But I think if we really think about how do we transform, it always starts with the people. So when we have great people in our buildings, every single classroom, every single campus, every single position, that's how you transform a school district. And we have, one of the things I've been so excited about coming back to Midland is having been here for 14 years, I know so many people at every single campus, even campuses I would go to that first semester and think, I don't know anyone at this campus. I don't run across people that aren't here for the right reason. Yeah. Our people want to be here. They're working hard day in and day out. They're excited for the work we have ahead of us. But I think, if we really want to transform education, we invest in our people, and we do that as a community, as a state, as a nation, and people have to feel appreciated as teachers and educators. So I think that's important. The other thing, I have to get technical here because it is an opportunity, but we have to be funded appropriately. Okay. And, depending on who you talk to, there are people that are going to say schools have more money than ever. You have plenty of money. You just need to get the job done. But when we think about inflation, we think about the cost of educating, we think about educating every single student regardless of their need, that is expensive, and it's more expensive than it's ever been.
And as an outsider looking in, I have no idea what that costs, right? I have no idea what you are up against every day. I hear the stories of, teachers, they have to go buy their own supply. But I don't know. I don't know what the cost is of an education, but you know it. So how can we fund schools more properly?
Right. So, those are conversations we're always having with our associations, with our elected officials. Okay.
So it's a state level, a national level?
State level.
State level, okay.
Yes. So the state of Texas has school finance formulas that they use and they determine. And so the big thing for any district, the more students you have, the more money you're going to have coming in. Okay. We're funded based on average daily attendance per pupil. The basic allotment that we get per student has not changed since 2019. Wow. So, some time's gone by that
inflation
cost a little
I know
more.
Bread costs more, eggs cost more, milk costs more, education costs more.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. And so that's kind of that initial layer of funding. The way that funding works in the state of Texas is it's local values and property taxes. Okay. And then the state share, which is called the Foundation School Program. So as our values go up, as we bring in more taxes, the state share comes down. Okay. So they keep us about the same all the time. Wow. And so, when the economy's great here and values are up and taxes
we're still not seeing the money.
Right. We're property wealthy. And what that means is we have more wealth per student than the state of Texas allows us to have. That's why we pay recapture. So we send money back to the state. Gotcha. That's then distributed. They use that. They consider that revenue that they then distribute to non-property wealthy districts to help fund them. So that's the one thing, a lot of, if you think about a business, if everything's going really well, you have more money. Right. For us, when everything's going really well, the economy's good, values are high, things like that's good. And unfortunately, our taxpayers are footing the majority of that bill because the state's then going to send less. So, those are things we talk to our legislators about all the time. There's no easy fix. They've been trying to work on it for years. There have been multiple lawsuits around the finance system. And I think if anyone had the perfect solution, they would have already come up with it. But the other thing is, and this is something that we've talked to both Representative Craddock and Senator Sparks about just in the last month, is average daily enrollment versus average daily attendance. So, the state says they're going to send us X amount of dollars. That is assuming every student comes to school every single day, never misses a day. But that isn't what they do. So, if our attendance rate's around 92%, which is about where it was this past year, we're getting 92% of the funding we're entitled to. However, you have to be 100% prepared to teach those students every single
Very
day.
true, because you don't know the days that five kids are not going to show up.
You don't know to not
You
run
have to
that
be ready
bus
for 'em.
route because they might be at the bus stop and they might not
That
be
makes
at the bus
sense.
stop. So those are some things that we're working on. So instead of average daily attendance, average daily enrollment, because whether they're in school or not that day, we have to be prepared to teach them if they show up.
That makes sense.
So
That makes sense. That's a great idea.
we think so.
I like that. Everyone I know is like, well, but there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Well, there might be more to it, but it's that easy. My husband always says, don't tell me how not, tell me how to. There you go. That's how to.
That's right.
Well, I think that is a great wish list, and I hope that.
And can I add one more?
Yeah, you can add. Let me see how you're doing on time here. We're getting close to our. I know you need to get out the door.
Wish list would be that every student has a great experience.
Yes.
And that's hard when you think about whether you're a big district or a little district. If you take two students, what's a great experience for one may not be a great experience for the other.
Very true.
But I would like to make sure, and whether it be us or just education in general, that we're meeting the needs of every student that we serve in one way or another.
I love that, and I think that's what everybody wants. I mean, anyone that is like you and that is like me, that loves children, you want every kid to have a great experience and to learn and be prepared for that next level when you send them off to college or send them into their career. When they leave MISD, you want them to be prepared.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I know we're running out of time because you have to go. Do I have 5 minutes to play a fun game with you?
Yes.
Okay, fun fact. This is going to be favorite things. Tell me a fun fact we wouldn't know about you if we were reading your bio.
Well, we already talked about the golf piece. Played golf. I was a cheerleader in high school. Is that a fun fact?
That is a fun fact. I would not know that. Reading your bio, I love that. That is a fun fact. And that's why you cheer for others so beautifully. I love that. Favorite coffee shop? You're driving to school in the morning. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, so I'm not a coffee drinker.
Well, what do you drink in the
But
morning?
I drink my energy drink, my Spark.
Hey, me too. I'm a Spark drinker. That's all I've had this morning. I love Spark. Advocare should sponsor our podcast
they
because
should.
every
They
day
should.
is driven by Spark.
Yes, I have my
I
Spark
love that.
first thing in the morning, and
Yes.
then I do my workout. And if I drink enough water, I have a Diet Coke at lunch. So
There
if
you
I
go.
don't drink enough water, I haven't earned that Diet Coke. But
I love
if I'm
that.
going to stop by and get coffee or tea, I like H2O.
Oh, yes. HTO is great. Awesome. Favorite book? You're going to read one book this summer. If you had time, you probably don't. You're like, I don't have time to read right now. But what book would that be?
So John Maxwell, we talked about John Maxwell. I was fortunate to be at the very first School Leadership Institute back when it was free.
Yes,
Back
I
then,
remember. We covered it in the news that year. Yes,
right.
yes.
And I really got that invitation and thought, this can't be true. Nothing is free in life. What's the catch here?
Right. But it was free.
Right. So anything Maxwell, anything
Yes.
leadership. I'm kind of a problem of practice person. So if there's something, personally I'm wanting to work on, or as a school district we're trying to work on, I'm probably reading something about
I love that. I love that. It goes to the growth mindset. I think that's awesome. Favorite life hack? Something that makes your life easier, just makes the day go smoother.
Life hack. I'm a planner. I write out my day every single morning. I write out what I'm going to do. Yes, I have my calendar.
Yes.
But I'm that tactile learner, so I like to write it.
So you have your day planner?
Yes.
You like
What time I'm
paper?
leaving the house, what time my workout has to be finished in
love
order
it.
to be ready to leave the house at that time.
I love it.
So have a notepad, have it in the bathroom, where you're getting ready in the
Right.
morning and when you're thinking of things. So
There you go. I love it.
guess,
Have that handy dandy notepad
Yes,
right there
that's
waiting for
right.
you. I love it.
That's right.
Favorite restaurant in West Texas?
wow, that's hard. So I guess that would be where we go most often, which is probably Tequila's over by Chili's.
Yes, it is very good. Tequila's is
Yes,
great.
yes,
It is awesome. And there's
I
3
remember-
locations now.
Well, they've moved different. The owners of that have moved to different restaurants. We've been here long enough that we know where they've been all those years,
Right.
and so it's hard to say. There are a lot of
There's
places
so many.
I like to eat.
There's so many good places
I love
to eat.
Cork and Pig, Press Cafe.
And we're going to get one because they're
know,
going to. I know.
I
I'm so
heard.
excited.
I don't think it's going to be called that, but it's going to be something similar.
Very good. I'm excited. Yeah, that I think that's going to be breaking ground next week, as a matter of fact. Okay, favorite memory in Midland?
So, gosh, that is really hard because I could go a lot of different directions here. I'm going to shift back to when we were able to get First Lady Mrs. Bush to come speak at graduation. So it was our 50th graduation when I was principal at what was then Lee High School. And about 9 months before that graduation, I had written a note, and Representative Craddock had always told us, if you need to get something to President Bush or Mrs. Bush, send it my way. I'll make sure they get it.
Nice.
And so I wrote the letter inviting her to come speak, and honestly, so much time had passed, I'd kind of forgotten about it. And walked back into my office one day after being out in the hall during passing periods, and my assistant said, so-and-so from Mrs. Bush's office called. And I'm thinking, Mrs. Bush? You know, I'm thinking one of my bosses.
Right, you're like, which Mrs. Bush? You know, you weren't thinking like, the Mrs. Bush.
Mrs. Bush. And so, you know, the rest is history. And so, you know, talking to her and having the opportunity for those graduates in the 50th class, she stayed and shook every one of their hands. And was amazing. So gracious and asked about that class, worked that into her speech that day. And so being able to do something like that, you know, was so special to that graduating class and the 50th year.
I love that.
Was really good. The second one would be, you know, Mr. Story, who was the longtime band director there. He was the president's band and marched in all the inaugural parades and various parades for the Bush family over the years. And if he needed to talk to, you know, President Bush, he thought he could just call the White House. And so notoriously, from time to time, he'd, you know, get a call. He said, if they finally told me to quit calling, and if the Secret Service shows up, they're looking for me, it's because it's coming from the band telephone number. But
that's funny.
You know, there was a time that he was told, do not call back.
That is funny.
He needed to talk to the president.
Yeah, he's like, so what else do you do? If you need to talk to anybody, just pick up the phone and call him, right?
That's right.
I love that.
What do you mean I can't get through?
I love that. Proudest moment in your history of education that really stands out in your mind? It could be in the last year and a half. It could be beyond.
Yeah, so I don't think I can go without talking about Bond 2023. Mm-hmm. So when I taught at Midland High 25 years ago, I've been teaching 5 years. Mm-hmm. We were talking about building a new Midland High back then. I was so excited, so naive, clearly, as well, as a new teacher. But I just remember how long we've been working on that, how many people have worked on that, all the committees that went before this last committee, all the co-chairs and the people that worked for 25 years trying to get that done. Being able to get that accomplished for our students. You know, when we think about our incoming second graders are the first students that will go to true middle schools. Mm-hmm. Our incoming fifth graders will be the first students to go to a 9-12 high school. Yeah. And in those, you know, new facilities, and that's going to be a game changer for the school district to be organized in that way. And so yes, it's about buildings, and yes, it's about construction, but it's also about the grade reconfiguration, and then just the morale boost it was for the employees. To feel like the community was behind them and supporting them. They stood a little taller that next day. I bet. Well, congratulations on everything you have done, not just the past year and a half, but beyond, because I know this has been, for the past 30 years, this is something near and dear to your heart, and you're passionate about, and it shows. And I wish you continued success as you move forward, because I can't imagine doing your job. It's got to be so hard.
Maybe you need to come spend a day with me. I did. You know what? I've been thinking about doing like a day in the life of. Right. I need to do a day in the life of and come and hang out with you for a day. I think that would be so cool, because I mean, when you said the number 29,000 students, and you said, you know, and then I think about your teachers, and then I think parents, the amount of lives that you're affecting on a daily basis is huge, and it's a big responsibility. And so congratulations to you, and hats off to you. And I would love to take you up on that and come see a day in the life of. Is there anything anything in closing that we have not talked about? Because I know we're running out of time and you've got a plane to catch. Is there anything in closing
So we start
haven't
school
talked about?
3 weeks from today.
Yay!
First day of school. So that's always exciting. I don't care if you've been in the business a year or 30, you cannot sleep the night before school starts.
No, you can't.
Doesn't matter if you're in the classroom or not. Probably the students don't either, but
Right.
So that excitement of the first day of school, we bring our employees back next week, and then students. But to our families out there, if you haven't registered, please do that. That's how we know you're coming back. If you need information, go to our website. We're in
Which
the process.
is great. I was on it right before you walked in. Great website.
We are getting ready. So I'm not sure if you're seeing the new one. We're launching a new website that's going to be even better if you're looking at our old one.
Fantastic.
But really trying to make that more user-friendly for our families and our students. And so use that website for information. If you have questions, call the campus, stop by the campus. But we're excited and look forward to that first day of school.
Yay. And what's the number one question that you think all parents know, but they still, it's like the most frequently asked question that maybe that you get a lot that you'd like to answer today?
Well, maybe what time does school start? What time is school out? I can't answer that because we have multiple times depending on the campuses, but that is on the campus website.
Okay, so go there. All the frequently asked questions are there, and it's different for every grade level, which is good to know too.
Yes.
If you have many in different schools. Thank you for your time today. I cannot tell you how much fun it was. I really wish we could go another hour,
Yes,
but I know
thank you,
you have
Krista.
to, and your time is precious. So thank you, and I wish you a wonderful school year. All the good things, all the good vibes. I know that it's a difficult job, and we appreciate you doing it and making our kids better. So
Thank you. Thank you for all the positivity.
Oh, you're
leading
welcome.
With that positive approach.
You are welcome. If you're ever struggling in the morning, just give me a call. I will cheer you on.
Right.
I know you get to cheer on so many others, but I will definitely cheer you on because it is hard, and I want everyone to live their best life, and all of our students in MISD. And so let's cheer them all on together and give those kids a smile as they head out the door.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time today. I want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Rig ID, Thin FR, Midland Cap Company, Tapestry Hotel Midland, and Kevin Foreman Financial. Please support local however you can. We are all in this together, and I want to see all of your businesses and students and kids and parents thrive. So don't forget my mottos: dream big, believe, and never give up. You make it a great day.